Hello and welcome back to another video on high altitude investing. In today's video, we are going to be talking about TFuel, but we're also going to be talking a little bit about TDrop and answering some questions you guys had about Theta as well. So today is all about the Theta network coins. So let's get started off here on TFuel. And what I want to show you guys here with this fractal is just how high TFuel really could go based on this comparison. So as you can see, this is the very first cycle that Bitcoin ever did. Bitcoin did recover after that bear market that we saw back here, where it went from $32 down to $4.78. And Bitcoin went into a full-blown bull market. And I see a similar thing coming for TFuel. And if TFuel breaks out in the same way that Bitcoin did, it would actually be pretty easy for this thing to do 100x in value. That would only be $26 billion in total market cap to do 100x from current price. And as you can see, if it follows the same fractal of human emotion as Bitcoin did, then it's very possible for us to hit those levels here with TFuel. Now, what I'm kind of thinking here for this coin is a very parabolic run, very vertical move, just like what we see over here with Bitcoin, where we break above the old all-time high and go straight vertical. Now, 10,000% from current price is a huge percentage gain, but again, the market cap for TFuel would still only be $26 billion, which is pretty low considering the fact that a lot of market caps in crypto, especially if we get the type of growth we're about to see, are going to be very, very high. So 26 billion in total market cap is not that crazy for this coin. So this is kind of what I'm looking at in the bigger picture, is a very vertical parabolic move for TFuel that will take us to a new all-time high and will make a lot of people a lot of money. So let's talk about the short term for this coin. Now here, if we zoom in on TFuel, you can see a massive bullish divergence forming on the 15-day candlesticks. So we have a lower low on price, but the MACD is forming a higher low, which is bullish divergence and generally leads to a very vertical kind of breakout. So what I'd be looking at here in the near future for TFuel is something like this, where we bottom out down here and we go right up through this local resistance, and we have kind of a vertical breakout, very similar to what happened to Bitcoin in 2015 when Bitcoin bottomed out. And here's what Bitcoin looked like over here in 2015. Bitcoin bottomed out down here and had a very vertical kind of breakout when it bottomed out. And I think we'll have a similar thing happen here with TFuel, where we get a vertical move based on this double bottom structure and based on the bullish divergence that we are seeing on this coin. Now, if you guys have never seen what a recovery can look like in the bigger picture, it's important to understand that these things can happen pretty quickly. Now, before they break their old all-time high, they're generally not going parabolic, but they do make consistent higher highs and higher lows. And that's exactly what you can see here with Bitcoin. Bitcoin made higher highs and higher lows. Then when it finally broke above that old all-time high level, then it really went parabolic after that. So I think a similar thing could happen here with TFuel, where we get consistent higher highs and higher lows until we break the old all-time high. And once we break that level, then we will go parabolic in a big way. Now, what I've done here is I've compared the Fibonacci extensions over here on Bitcoin to TFuel. Now, if TFuel only does half of what Bitcoin did in terms of its extensions, then TFuel would be worth around $5, which, by the way, is over 100x from current price. So that's a large percentage gain for this coin. And I personally believe we could even go as high as Bitcoin did at the 16,618. But we won't get into that today. Main focus is 100x on TFuel, which is around half of what Bitcoin did in terms of Fibonacci extensions. Bitcoin went all the way to the 16,618. If TFuel only does half of that, that puts us around the 6,618, which is about $5 per TFuel, or around 100x in price. So you can see between the short term and the long term for this coin, there is a lot of profit potential, both in the near future with a vertical breakout like what happened to Bitcoin in 2015, and over the longer term with a potential 100x in value if it follows the same pattern that Bitcoin followed, and I'm fairly confident that it will. So this is my view on TFuel. Get ready for big things. I see this coin as doing massive percentage gains and blowing a lot of people away and really doing doing a percentage gain that's going to knock a lot of people's socks off. So let's talk a little bit about TDrop here. TDrop looks a lot like Ethereum did back in the day when Ethereum first got added to exchanges and it really hadn't seen a cycle yet. Here's Ethereum over here on the right. You can see what it did was pretty much drop off a cliff, and then it did an accumulation pattern where volume started coming into Ethereum, people started to get excited about it, and the bigger whales started picking it up down here at 50 cents. Now, I was here when this happened on Ethereum when it got added to Poloniex, and I saw the psychology of most people. And a lot of people were excited about Ethereum, but they were pretty bearish down here at these lows because it hadn't had a cycle and it was just falling off a cliff, right? So a lot of people were pretty bearish down there. That's going to be normal. The sentiment of a lot of people are going to be pretty bearish at the best buying opportunities in any market in the world. But I did witness that with Ethereum, and there's probably a similar psychology going on with TDrop right now, where some people are going to be a little hesitant to invest, but they don't understand cycles and they don't understand what could happen for this coin, because it's actually pretty likely that this does see a full recovery and a bull market of some kind. How big the cycle is, nobody knows for sure, but I see the cycle as being very big, very vertical, and very profitable for TDrop, all the way up to a new all-time high and a very parabolic run that could take us all the way to 10 cents or even 30 cents before any major bear market. If we hit 30 cents on TDrop, you're talking about 100x in value, over 100x. So that's what I'm looking at for this coin, is a very parabolic breakout all the way to a new all-time high. For sure 10 cents, but potentially even higher for TDrop. So let's talk a little bit about Theta. Some of you guys were wondering because of yesterday's video that I made about Theta. And in that video, I gave two scenarios. One scenario where it follows an Ethereum-like fractal and pumps very quickly up to around $50 and then has a bear market. Another scenario was that it follows a Bitcoin fractal, takes a little longer to take off, but goes all the way to $260 without any major bear market and a more sustained uptrend because of mass adoption. So some of you guys were wondering how high the price of Theta would be like in the next year or two if it follows the Bitcoin scenario. Make sure if you haven't seen yesterday's video to go check it out so you can see the two different scenarios that I have for Theta. Now, if it follows the Bitcoin scenario, we could be at or around a new all-time high within a year. So I'm still talking about a very vertical move here, very rounded kind of bottom here for Theta. Once we break above that old all-time high, things will start to pick up pretty quickly, and that's where we could have a run all the way to $260 by 2029. But within a year, I think we could easily be at or around our old all-time high of $15 per Theta. So that's kind of what I'm looking at if we follow the Bitcoin fractal. We follow the Ethereum fractal, obviously we could be at a new all-time high within a year, like pretty easily. But I'm really leaning towards the Bitcoin fractal where we see a more sustained mass adoption for crypto. Instead of a pump and dump like we saw the last two cycles, something that's more typical of a mass adoption phase for new technology. That's really what I believe is coming for crypto, is mass adoption. And I see this cycle as the cycle that happens. So with that being said, the cycle could be a lot more sustained, longer, a bigger cycle that takes longer for us to move, but it doesn't have any major bear market. It's just a sustained uptrend like what we've seen whenever technology is mass adopted by the public. And we do see a lot of signs for this happening. A lot of different cryptos do show a lot longer cycles. For example, a lot of coins are inside of massive multi-year accumulations, like XLM is in an 8-year accumulation. You're talking about a lot bigger accumulation patterns than what we've seen in any other cycle. And I personally believe we will see a bigger, more sustained bull market as a result of those bigger, longer accumulation patterns. I see all of this as evidence for mass adoption coming for crypto, which will lead to the biggest, the longest, and the most sustained bull market that we've ever seen for crypto. So yeah, that's my views on TFuel. Get ready for big things. I think 100x could easily happen. We could go higher than that too, based on this pattern, but I'm very confident that 100x will happen for this coin. And with TDrop, I could easily see 100x this cycle too. It's only worth 0.001 cents, and it looks a lot like early day Ethereum before Ethereum really took off and went vertical and had its first real bull market. And again, with Theta, I see two scenarios. So go watch yesterday's video if you haven't seen it, because it's very informative. And I go in depth on the two scenarios I see for Theta and what could happen for this coin. So yeah, thank you guys for tuning in to today's video. Make sure that you apply for the one-on-one coaching, link in the description box below. I'll hop on a phone call with you guys and talk a little bit about what the one-on-one coaching is and how it can change your life, how you can start making money and profit easily in the crypto markets. I look forward to seeing you guys in future videos. And as always, stay profitable out there.